Yeah, so thanks to the last panel and thanks for discussing police issues. And thank you so much for painting the picture of what the situation is like. Karibu, Davis. Wanjira. Karibu. Yeah, if you ask me, I think the problem with our policing is that it has become an identity. Police in this country are like the 44th tribe. It's like an identity. If you become a policeman, you acquire a new identity. You cease being a member of your ethnic group, you cease being a member of a political party, you become police as an identity, and I think that's a problem. And so that identity, the problem with it is that it does what is called othering. So youth are seen as the crisis, the problem, and we will be discussing a bit of that here. And because youth are seen as a problem, youth must be dealt with. They are the criminals. And so in this country, if you don't have a job, you're a criminal, the way the police think about us. If you are not married, you're a criminal. If you have rasta on your head, you're a criminal. If you dress like a youth, you are profiled by the police as a problem. And I think that's a discussion we can have another day. I am here with a very distinguished panel of generations. I think I'm the oldest. And we want to discuss the emerging transition. Kenya has been having transitions from independence. We then started fighting for what is called the second liberation. It means the first one didn't work. Then when we were through with the second liberation, we realized we didn't go very far. And so we started fighting for the third liberation. And I think the Gen Zs have upped it, and they are very disappointed with my generation, that we didn't finish the job, and so they are trying to finish the job that we didn't finish. And the whole of last year, you witnessed a very, very organized Gen Z movement that was saying things haven't been going right. But that has not been happening in Kenya only. If you look around the globe and the continent, young people are restless and they are saying things. And I have a colleague here from Tunisia who, as you know, Tunisia also went through things, and those things generated certain results, and I'll be asking her what lessons can we pick from there. And so I don't want this to be a question and answer session. I really would like us to just reflect. And in these reflections, I really want to hear what your dreams are as you know, different generations, folks who have been fighting to see change. What have been your dreams? Are those dreams facing any challenges? Challenges are real and they're usual. And in the last session, we will discuss what do we think we can do with each of those challenges. And maybe we, the people, then and now, is a comparative panel. We want to compare the generations. And I want to invite the audience to really follow this through, because the conversation will come from you, not from us here. Wanjira, you guys did some really good stuff June 25th. Did you corner the president?
I think he was cornered.
Just take a mic.
I think he was cornered, but only temporarily, because he held a presser after calling us treasonous criminals, and then he fired his CS for optics. He reshuffled, for optics, and then he hired them back, and then he brought the opposition. It was just a whole he did not listen to the grievances of the young people, to say it shortly. He didn't listen to us. I think he felt like we were threatening his power. He did not look at the issues that were being raised. He saw a president being ousted by a young generation. He did not look at what is this uprising about and what can I do about it. So he completely neglected the demands that the young people had. Almost, we felt like, si tulifeel amechudharau tu, ametusho mtadu, mnajua mimi ndo prezo. Eh? That is what it felt like to us. Am I speaking for you, Gen Zs? Did you feel like he was telling you mtadu? Because that's exactly how I felt. Yeah?
So you feel like he showed you the whatever?
Yeah, I'm just trying to be polite, but yeah, that's it. I'm trying to have manners in this panel, okay. But that's exactly it.
Good. So, guys, we have to have fun in this panel. This panel is about having fun. Jemmezi, you're a student, and you live in the US, I'm told, but you come from Tunisia. I'm sure you've heard about the Kenyan political experience and the Gen Z revolution. Do you think the political actions by the Kenyan youth were pragmatic? Would you compare them with Tunisia?
Pragmatic, okay. Pragmatic is a big word, I think, because it entails rational, it entails logic, and I think what drove people to the street was more emotions, and there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of passion, a lot of people were angry, and the protests during the financial bill, and then even Ruto's responses, it was very direct and similar to what was happening in Tunisia in 2011 when we went out to the street to protest, because we were done and we wanted a new regime. And while the act of going to the street is very important, because Kenya has showed that they are capable of gathering the masses and Gen Z to get together in a leaderless, faceless movement where people can actually ask for what they demand for and be heard. And you did corner him, honestly. Props to you guys. But what comes after, I think, is the pragmatic part. What comes after in terms of understanding policy, enforcing it, talking between generations. And see, power is a very sneaky thing, because the people that have the power would never let you or engage in discussions with you to share that power with you, because it should stay and be centralized. And one of the most important things is we have to be sneaky. We have to know how to talk the politician's language. And I'm gonna quote George Orwell here. And he talks about political language, that it is designed to make lies seem truthful and murder respectable, and to give an appearance solidarity to pure wind, which I think what is happening, honestly, in Kenya. You listen to any interview, any politician, the language is very murky and vague, and there isn't really any end goals that we're reaching for. So I think what I ask my fellow Gen Zs in Kenya, from my experience in Tunisia, with a lot of hopes and dreams, even though our revolution kind of took a detour, I'm still dreaming, to to keep on fighting. Because if you do not fight in terms of policy and language and push, and Professor mentioned it earlier, we need to take the consequences of our own actions. Yes, we're doing something that's revolutionary or radical or might piss a lot of people in power, but you need to understand the consequences and keep fighting. Whether you're a journalist or a policeman that's decided not to harm civilians, or someone that a teacher that's teaching the future generations and letting them know how to be revolutionary and leaders and how to protect their country and feel Kenyan above any other identity.
Thank you for allowing us to accept that maybe it hadn't reached the point of a revolution, right? That's what she's saying. Maybe, because for a revolution to happen, you need revolutionaries, isn't it? And Bosire, you know, you're a veteran journalist. These, in our view, have been revolutionaries. In fact, if you look at media reporting, there's a sense in which the state and the president himself termed these Gen Z revolters as coup plotters, that they were planning to overthrow the regime. And it appears the regime is so weak that it can be overthrown just like that by cartoons and drawings. How come the media has not harped on this narrative well enough for people to understand?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the media has been an integral part of what has happened, the conversations that have taken place in this country. I like what my colleague has said, that there are phases to any change. First of all, there was that impulsive response, the emotional support, the emotional response. Then there will be what we call strategy. What do you do after that? And how do you consistently engage? And how you engage, it means you bring in inclusivity, because every conversation does not just happen in the vacuum. It connects from one generation to another, from one element, from one group to another, so that in the end, you have what we call a critical mass. But that message has to be passed to the public, and the public has to buy into it. And talking about what happened, that was momentous. Having been in the media, in a media that is now dealing with a very disrupted sector, as opposed to what we used to call the legacy media, you knew that if I read paper X, that was exactly that was the only source of information. There is now what we call everybody shares the information. But what's the level of hygiene and information that you're getting? So that is where everything else was muzzled. Everything else was fuzzled. And talking about the Gen Z protests last year, they are part of the continuum that we have had as a country. That in 2002, those who first, when we voted, and I remember we all sang a song, Yote Yawezekana, Bila Moi. For me, the latter part of Bila Moi, that's where we lost the plot, because we ended up personalizing and failed to look at the real issue. The persons who come and the persons who will go. And the moment we put names against certain momentous things, then you lose it. And that, for me, in the early times of our independence, and in 2010, we also had a moment, because before I leave the 2002, what we are talking about, the ills of the police. We remember going out as citizens to arrest police officers who were receiving bribes. What happened after that? We did the arrests. We were optimistic that we'll change these things. But as PLO spoke this morning, we soon jumped into those trenches that have hobbled this country, whose main theme has been betrayal. You ask yourself, did we have a Kenya? When did Kenya start? I keep asking myself like that. Did Kenya start in 1963? Did it start in 1952? 1900? In my very humble submission, I think Kenya has been there as a colonial construct. And what we've seen is just the changing faces. When we talk about media, in those very early stages, there was a media called Standard. The Standard voiced the interests of the ruling elite. When we came to 63, in the early 60s, the nation came and identified with the freedom struggle. And it continued talking the language of the people. In the 90s, when Kenneth Matiba would not find space in the nation to advertise, he started his own newspaper called the People Daily, so that it could also be used. It could use that space too. So The media has been part of this conversation, and when you check what we call the trust element, who is most trusted in telling the story, saying what people feel, because the media has, besides information, it also gives you what we call, it entertains you, but it's also a public watchdog. The information we give, we speak on behalf of the people. We bring out the stories. A lot of what happened in Jemmezi protests last year would not have come to the public domain if what we call the media way of transmitting it did not come through. The memes, the stories, the live events. That's why the regime was so scared to have a live streaming of the protests. That was how powerful, because whatever happened got into us, and then that created conversations. So the media has been part and will be part of this conversation. If you can't wish them away, because every epoch, media also documents everything else, so that we are doing the connection between one event to the next event, that give us the collective feel as a country.
Thank you so much, Bosire. The media has given you a commitment, Wanjira. They will be part of the conversation as an ongoing. But I just want to check with you. Bosire says your struggle should have been a struggle that connects generations, that it should have been a continuum, that what you were doing was a build-up to what has been going on for decades. But you were very angry with the other generations last year. You were very angry with parents. In fact, you called them cowards. And you said they let you down. Could this be the reason the movement destroyed itself?
No, and the movement has not destroyed itself. I think more than ever now, especially after that documentary, if we said tunaenda maandamano, we would feel those streets yet again. What happened was we were angry at the tribal politics our parents play. That every time, mtu wetu narrative, and it's because we are always telling them, like me, I'm a Kikuyu, my mom is a Kikuyu, and every time my mom will vote for a Kikuyu candidate, no matter how many times I tell her. Sasa after elections is when she comes and says, and by the way, you were right. And by the way, you are right. So it was not, we are angry at our parents, we are disapproving the tribal politics they have been ingraining in us, because you're also being taught, if you're coming from this particular tribe, you should only vote in that particular tribe. Because if you don't, then that tribe is gonna. But when we look at the bigger picture as young people, we're like, no, it's actually not a tribal thing. This is a Kenyan thing. When I go to the hospital, I'm going there as a Kenyan. I need my services regardless of whatever tribe I'm coming from. And our anger was mostly towards the political class. Hapo ndio hasira yetu ilikuwa sana. That these guys are spending their money, however, our money, our taxes money, they are being, inaitwaje, wanajaribu tu pesa, wanachukua jet ya 200 million, private jet. Aya, wanabai magari, wanafanya ma TikTok videos, kurori yani, wanatuonyesha vile, life iko aire. Sisi on this other side, it's my graduates, hawana ma job, they have young babies, they have wives, we are frustrated. We are like, you guys, we are trusting you with bettering our lives, and you're squandering the little monies that we have as a country, even the loans that you guys are taking. We cannot point to one particular thing these loans are doing, because madaktari wanagoma, walimu wanagoma, nothing is working in this country. So we are like, we are alafu sasa. On top of that anger, they bring a finance bill that promises to make our lives even more difficult. We were like, tusizoeane by the way.
Thanks for clarifying that you are angry at the politics. It makes me feel a bit safe now. Thanks for clarifying that it was really the political class that you're up against. But let me tell you a short story. One of my age mates came to one of the demos in town because we were tired of being blamed for not playing a part. So I told him, Jacob, you go, then based on your experience, I can go the following day. And so Jacob came back with his experience. I said, look, I was in the streets, really up and ready, geared, putting on the right clothes. But when a tear gas canister was thrown at us, my natural instinct was to run away from it. But all the people around me ran towards it with their cameras on. So I realized we were in the streets, but our visions are not the same. So he came back. So I said, do we try another time? I said, no, we can't, because, you know, it's just too risky. Tell me about the emotions that were running when you guys were in the streets. What was the driving motor that tear gas was attractive rather than repulsive? You know, what was that about? Because it will help us to build a stronger movement and get more people on board, including me.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw that guy who had a placard that said, "Sio tear gas, it's the fragrance of change." The emotions that we had in those protests were emotions of, finally, we are actually taking action towards these guys. It was, we are here, we are doing it, we are protesting, we are asserting our sovereignty as the Kenyan people. Article 1 was the driving force of those protests. Article 1. It was all sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya. Even though it was beating in our hearts, in our heads, and then there was massive solidarity amongst each other. So we felt like, you see, when soldiers go to war the way they are one team, we was one team when we were in the maandamanos. I remembered one time, tukitorokea tear gas, my phone fell. And someone who I was running with actually brought my phone to me and said, Wanjira, you dropped your phone. In these Nairobi streets, you know how rare that is. But we felt like we were working together as a unit. We were demanding for what was rightfully ours. Kenya ni nyumbani. Kenya ni home. Sasa tulikuwa home. Tunapigania home ikuwe better, because serikali ilikuwa inasema, and I'm sorry you can't hear Swahili. Let me speak. The government used to tell us they are going to get jobs for us abroad to go and do those, you know, those jobs. We're like, no, we want home to be better. We want to build better. We have skills to actually build a better country. We don't want to go anywhere. We have actually perfect weather, I think. I really love the Kenyan weather here. So we don't want to go and struggle with Mawinta, Manini, and those pathetic jobs, because Kenya is unbearable. And then we feel like it's not rocket science. It's not anything so difficult to say we're actually going to ensure our citizens get quality healthcare. It's actually a constitutional right. We are going to ensure our students get quality education. It's actually a constitutional right. We are going to make sure no Kenyan citizen dies by the bullet by people who are actually mandated to protect them. We are not asking for anything grandiose. We are not saying tupeleke Dubai. Hizo basics ndio tulikuwa tunapigania.
Thank you very much. Jemmezi, I know you must be feeling like these were God's terrorists. You know, there's a book that was described this morning. Do you feel these Kenyan Gen Zs were like God's terrorists? And looking at the Tunisian experience, somebody in the morning was concerned about organizing beyond elections. That is there anything we could do outside of elections that can produce the kind of results we are looking for?
To start first, God's terrorists, I don't like that word considering I'm Arab, so let's not use that word.
It's the title of a book, so it's not me.
Tell that to the American government. Anyway, so basically, I mean, I am very honestly inspired and honored to speak about such thing, but also to learn about the Gen Z protests and to see that there's people at a grassroots level pushing against the grain, which is really hard. Not everyone is capable of going out there to the streets to protest. Asante. Basically, so there's a lot of respect that I have for the Gen Z. However, in terms of organizing beyond elections and organizing beyond revolution, I think this is why I'm here today to talk about. Because 2011, we were really happy. We also had that moment of euphoria. We were the happiest. We were all on the streets chanting. The president ran away to Saudi Arabia. We were finally free. And we went through a way of like doing it also not through elections. We got rid of the political party that we thought was abusing us for years. And then comes 2014, we also write our new constitution. And we're very happy with the new constitution and the rights it provides, et cetera, et cetera. But where we went wrong was we did not make sure there was a system that keeps checks and balances. We were not sure. We changed the people, but did we really change the system? The system kept on breeding the same political parties and kept on attracting the same narrative and political discussions. While tribalism takes a lot of space in Kenya, it's also similar in Tunisia with regionalism, which is a colonial leftover that our parents also instilled in us. Oh, you're from the south, you don't marry somebody from the north, etc., etc. So basically, I think one of the things that I would think Kenya in general and the youth and generations to focus about is that Gen Zs are not hostile in the sense of like, yes, there is a lot of anger, but that anger, we're not asking why they're protesting out there. When Rudo goes and responds, or even the elderly, we're not listening to actually what they're demanding. We're painting it with like political slogans of like, they're rebels, they belong to the streets, unemployed people, they're not educated. But if you actually listen to the demands, people are asking for economic sovereignty, which is, I think, the one solution that we need to take forward moving in Africa. And Kwame Nkrumah talks about this a lot, in the sense of like, if you want to be an independent country, you need to have neocolonialism in every possible shape or form outside of your structures. You need to reform your structures in a way that serve you, your community, locally. So a couple of advices and bullet points I thought of. Protect your judiciary. Please do so, because Tunisia is having one of the worst democratic backslidings right now because of the judiciary and the state capture on the judiciary sector. We have a trial going on right now. It's called the betrayal trial, where all of the opposition are being trialed unfairly. The Supreme Court, our version of the Supreme Court, is also kind of getting a lot of attacks by the president. One of the most influential lawyers and like spokesmen in civil society was arrested last week. So truly, we don't have an opposition and we don't have civic space to even speak. So the fact that I'm in Kenya here talking about this is very important. The fact that we can hold space and have conversation is very important. The second thing is, Constitution is written well and done. It's okay. What the problem is, you need to decentralize the power and give people in local communities access to self-govern themselves economically and politically. I want to go out there and get the healthcare I want. I want to go out there and get the medicine I want. I don't need to be reliant on US aid or, I don't know, debt or begging the government for a loan to provide a house or food for my family, etc. And if you listen to what the Gen Zs are demanding, they're demanding, as I said, economic sovereignty. And I think that is one of the first steps we could start for. When I know someone mentioned that we should always use a political economy theory lens of analysis to understand where we're going, and that is very important. When you give people social welfare and economic sovereignty, what people can do becomes amazing, because you're not only fixing the problem from a surface wise, you're fixing the roots of the problem and the roots of the structure that are not working, and you're creating a system that will fight for you rather than against you, and start producing politicians that will represent you out there. And even if they're not representing you, we have the mechanisms to get them out and elect new ones, or hold them accountable. The word accountability comes up a lot, and I think we should focus on that.
Please clap for her. Bosire, you and me are being accused of not listening. We are calling these young people rebels. In other instances, they were said to be people who go to KFC, that they use Uber, they are Uberized. And, but there's also a sense in which Gen Zs are really stuck in the digital prison, which I think is a conversation we also need to have. What do you think about those things?
I think you say accusations. By who? The people who made those accusations, you know them. They've never been part of us. We create them, they parachute and go to their places. The politician has never been part of who you are. You donate power, they grab it from you. The moment you vote, you give them the ticket to fly away and load it over you. That's why the conversation about, in Kenya, have we made a conscious decision between who is the debate about leadership and a politician? A politician is a different animal, self-serving, wants to dominate everything. But a leader will be with you to lead you, to guide you, to walk with you. How many of our leaders today, when I walk the streets, even the smallest, the lowest elected position of MCA, they have bodyguards around themselves. Are they part of you? Who is he? Why does he need bodyguards to walk around his electorate? In my youth, I used to see ministers walking from office of the president, and you can bear testimony, walk from office of the president all the way to Norfolk to come and have lunch, across the street greeting everybody else. But today, they can't do that. In the village, they have put stone walls around their homes. They have razor-sharp wires around themselves. But let's agree that a politician is not part of you. So when he makes an accusation, that is from a different kind of breed of people. But having said that, the issues that the Gen Zs brought up were issues that have haunted this country for centuries, for decades. Education, poverty, unemployment, discrimination, ethnicity, corruption. They've been part and parcel of this country. The only difference is that this time is the Gen Zs had the digital and technological mobilization, and that a bigger cause and enough anger and energy in themselves to speak it louder than we ever did. I know some of the people today who we made into that special category of people, the people who were in the second liberation, the Railas, once we made them politicians, they acted like politicians. We saw them as liberators. They did their part. They pushed for for multipartyism. It came through. They pushed for 2010 constitution that allows us now to have these assemblies. And that is the appreciation from us. Yes, you did your part, but hand over what I call the baton to the next people, because you can't run the race when other people are still warming in the track. Hand them over. You can't do 2 laps when you're supposed to do 1 lap and hand over. I think that has been the disconnect. Today's dinosaur politicians, what we call legacy politicians, were once nicknamed the young Turks, the people who moved things. And we covered them. We saw them move us from one point to another. But then because we did not get of what we call entrapments, our ethnicity. That's why we could not elect them. We did not move out of our love for what we call the entrapment to what we call bribe masters. Why would I go to the village? I was in the village last week, and a politician came and wanted to jump the program because he needed to go to another function. It was my younger brother who had passed on. But I just told the MC, you cannot do that. This is a private family function. We did not write out invitations. He came out of his own volition. And if he wants to, he came in quietly. Let him leave as quietly as he came. He does not have to disrupt our program just because he wears the tag of a politician. And I told him, please take your 10,000 with you. And that's the way you have to speak to them.
Are you listening?
I'm listening.
I didn't have to be 18 years old to tell him, but I stood for a conviction that this man cannot come. And how many funerals in Kenya today are taken over by politicians? Yet, the bereaved family has no say. That's where it begins. Make those spaces very thin, very scarce for them, and they will know that our bad manners will have to be, they have to behave. Unless we make them behave from those very small units, they will still come and misbehave when you give them the bigger positions.
Thank you very much, Bosire. Let's clap. A round of applause, please. Yeah, so there are just one more question, because I want everyone to answer this question. But the revolution started, and it's still going on, as Wanjira has confirmed. But it needs to be turbocharged. It's lacking charge. I don't know how many of you feel the way I feel, but the revolution in the country is lacking charge, and it needs to be turbocharged because it's urgent that we change this country. How can we turbocharge the Kenyan revolution? Or even with Gen Zs ahead, even with other generations on board. But we do need to charge this revolution. Number one, our economy is going bear-shaped. You can say statistics all you want, but when an economy is good, you feel it in your pocket and at home. Number two, we look like people who are trying to solve a homicide without locating the dead body. So I want proposals, Wanjira. How can we turbocharge this revolution? And as you speak to that, pay attention to the challenges that you have passed through, things you have seen that you would have done better, the change you could make to the lenses you've been wearing. Are there things we could do with those lenses and perhaps make them thicker, and so on and so forth? That is the conversation I would like us to have. I'll give each one of the panelists a minute, then I'll come to the floor. This will not be asking panelist questions. We want to interact with this revolution together.
I think that we've been very clear that the goal for the Gen Z movement is alternative political leadership, because it is the political class that has caused us all this problem. So how do we organize towards an alternative political leadership? How do we drain the swamp, ideally? So that means we are going to have a lot of organizing amongst ourselves. And I also think that the leaderless tactic worked during the protest, but I think now we need to develop leadership. I don't know what the Gen Zs in the room feel, but I think now we need to advance to the second stage, which is actually having leadership that will be able to say, for example, June 25th is coming. We need to honor our fallen comrades. We need a program. We need activities. We need to know what we are doing. So we need to have some sort of a steering committee or secretariat or something that can lead us towards that process. And it has to happen no matter what. We will not do anything. Sindio? Aya. The other thing is, this country ni yetu sisi wote, sio ya majenzi peke yake. So we need to work towards a Gen Zote alliance, where we are all organizing towards the alternative new country that we want to witness, especially. And I honestly do not think we are going to defeat Ruto through the elections. He has already determined the IEBC. It feels like it's already determined, the elections of 2027. So what do we need to do as the people? Do we run a parallel election? Because we know we would beat him in an election any day. And we also know he's organizing to steal votes, kama kawaida, sindio? So to run parallel election yetu, tukuwe na results zetu, do IBC hata nini, tuapishe. Iyo ama to abscond elections. Either that or because we are not having Ruto for another 5 years, there is absolutely no way. There is absolutely no way. There is no way. Apana, no way. So, to discuss, kama Gen Z na kama Gen Zote. First, kama Gen Z, I'm pushing for the consolidation of the Gen Z base that we can come and then link with Gen Zote. Consolidation of the Gen Z base so that we are on the same page about things. For example, these alternative elections, we have to be on the same page the way we work kwa maandamano. Tukisema LD, mkuwe tallying, ya MCA, ya MP, ya governor, ya president, mnatoa results zenyu. Na tuko na technological know-how. We can have our own something there. Sindio? We can have our own servers to put our results there. And maybe they should birth a new political culture in this country, that we actually have elections. They are electric. Your kidole is what is voting for you, because something has got to give. I would hate for us to go back to how things were before June 25th. We need to birth a new political culture. And we have already started with, we are tribeless. So we are no longer going to identify with any sort of tribe when it comes to voting. I also liked what she said about a system that will fight for you rather than against you. Iyo system hakuna mtu anakuletea, ni sisi tunajitengenezea, na inaanza hapo kwa kujitengenezea our own alternative. Sisi lazima tukue in control of who our leaders are, so that we don't label them politicians, so that they don't come with bodyguards, because they wouldn't need to. Because they are our leaders and they know we are holding them accountable. The other thing is, we need to be able to populate parliament. Kisisi, unaona hapo kwa parliament. That's the lawmaking body. That is where the problem of this country is. That 13th parliament has been the worst the country has had. It cannot tell Ruto no. When it is given money, they can even sell us to slavery. So that parliament needs to be populated by young people who can agree on, who cannot be bought, who can actually be trusted with the heart of this country, because that's it. When we send you to parliament as our representative, we are not sending you kama politician. We're actually sending you there to be our voice. Why we stormed parliament on 25th is because we no longer had our voices in there. It was not us that the parliament was representing. So we had to go in there and represent ourselves. Article 1 inasema, we can exercise our power directly or indirectly. So indirectly was failing. We had to go and do it directly. So this power has got to be maintained somehow. What you are saying, that we did not have checks and balances after we have gotten a new constitution, we have gotten a new government. Somehow, things still went back to being horrible. So we need to birth new cultures that will maintain that momentum and change that we have created, that we never ever go back to how things were post-Gen Z. Sindio? Yeah, so those are some of the things I am thinking about.
Thank you. My sister, what are you thinking?
About a lot of things. But I think I've done a lot of work that's community learning based and very focused on doing change starting from the local going to the global scale. Well, in Kenya, there's a lot of also adding to your checks and balances point, the international community could hold Kenya and Kenya's politicians accountable. And that is something not to take as a joke. If Ruto had some ICC issues, he shouldn't have been reelected again, honestly. I don't know. But anyway, moving forward to the solutions. Education. Education. I think, and when I say education, it needs to be by the community, for the community, not a random dude in an office doing it, writing it from Nairobi. When I've traveled around Kenya and getting to see a lot of different areas and zones, Mombasa is not the same as Nakuru or as Naivasha or as Amboseli or as Kakamega. There's a lot of different economic sectors going on there. There's a different interest. There's different people. And when you provide an education and a base of knowledge that allow the people living in that county to know what their county is about, what economic sectors they're moving for, how can they provide to the economy themselves, how they can self-govern within their community without having to leave. We talk about leaving Kenya to go abroad to work. Some people leave they're internally displaced because they have to leave wherever they came from, which is a rural area with no development, to come to Nairobi to do work. A nice piece of change could be we start hyper-localizing our businesses and our education and the way we think about policy. It's not just a paper in the air. How can we actually implement it in real life? And what does it mean for this policy to be passed for the people of Nairobi or the people of Kakamega or the people of Mombasa? Another thing I would say is, apart from education, is the media. We talked a bit about how Gen Zs occupied the media. To be fair, that was the only space we had left. We don't have any third spaces available for us to come and assemble and talk and riot. So media was the only space that was left for the Gen Z to talk and express themselves. And just as nice as it is and as how easy it is to use social media to mobilize people, it is also very fragile. I know in Mozambique, was it last year? There was protests going on and there was internet shut down. We should also be careful of that because the moment internet media is shut down, now no one will hear what the Kenyan voices are about. And if the day of the Parliament Finance Bill and Parliament takedown, if no footage was filmed, no one, the BBC documentary would have been made. And they relied on a lot of photos and videos from journalists and honestly peoples and videos on TikTok to find the persecutors. The third thing, just taking on the BBC documentary, is we have names and photos of people that we could hold accountable right now. We should work on that. If that police, I know we talk a lot about policing and how police is really bad, but we should also humanize police officers in a sense of they're getting orders and they're also scared for their life and for their job, etc. And they're not that scary in the sense of they're just another human like me. But the problem was the person giving the orders, a Kenyan person giving orders to another Kenyan person to kill other Kenyan people. This is where the issue is. We shouldn't be giving orders to kill each other because this is how genocide starts and civil war starts, and we don't want to backslide into that. We want to go up. We don't want to do what Tunisia did as a mistake. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Of course, there are lessons to learn from Tunisia, but I like your advice that some people wanafaa kusalimiwa. Some people should be greeted. Karibu.
Yes, one, talking about picking up from what Professor PLO said in the morning. Can we all go out and teach each other not to leave the bad manners of being weaponized using money? Why do you want somebody to pay you to vote? Reject the money. Don't even say take it and vote differently. That part of that money has a way that it works on your mind. Please do not tell people not to take the money to vote. That would be my recommendation, number one. Because the people who ride bodas around and create convoys are people of our age. They are Kenyans who are used against other people. 2, discipline within the ranks of the people who want change. You want rights, we want rights, but we must also uphold higher levels of responsibility. What do we want? I drive through the streets of Nairobi, and the levels of indiscipline you see in Nairobi do not inspire anybody on the roads. Who drives on those roads? Us young people. You go to clubs, the manner of things. So people keen on a change must exercise discipline and responsibility. There is also something called, what we discuss must be issue-based. Because when you come to the media, we are in an era of what we call misinformation, malinformation, and everything else. We have a responsibility, we have the tools, but do not also be part, as a citizen who is inspiring change and revolution, to be part of a culture of misinformation. You must believe in good knowledge, you have context, you understand, and hygiene of information that you share. Because if you share for me a wrong thing today, I will not believe you tomorrow. I'll see you as a person with ulterior motives. So be responsible, share hygienic information, be strategic, have knowledge. For example, Madam Otieno. How many know Madam Otieno? She just walked into the room. Madam, can we appreciate you? That lady is a treasure trove of knowledge. She has placed her life on the line to have that constitution that allows us to have assembly today, that allows you to do this. And that is the disconnect that I talk about. Unless you appreciate people in the spaces that have contributed to allow us to have that continuum of reforms and change and changing our society, then we lose it. She walked in, nobody even noticed. But Madam Otieno is the one of those people who laid the foundations of where we are today. How many know Professor Kibwana? I know he has been addressing you, but there are people who would not notice him when he walks in the streets. So honor those people who have played their part, so that what Wanjira says about generation zote, inclusivity, that is going to be a thing. And finally, know the history of your country. We must learn to know who we are. Kenya has never changed the substructure. We've changed faces. At independence, we changed faces of colors, but we never changed the structures. We're talking about a police that runs on the laws that was established during the colonial time. The civil service is as archaic as they come. So work for institutional reforms that are responsive to the dynamics of the current situation. You can't have an old, is it the people who believe in the Bible, you can't put new wine in old? What does it mean? It will burst. So this is new wine, we are putting in old wine skins. Let's change that wine skin, so that when we do that, we know that there will be resilience, there will be relevance, and something that works for all of us without carrying it with fear. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to open this to the floor. Please, if you speak, be very brief. Try and identify if there are any mistakes the movement has done and what we can do about them. And try and respond to the theme of how do we turbocharge this movement. There are mics here, but there's a hand there, number 1. Number 2 in black. Number 3 in white. Number 4 at the back. We start with those, then I'll take another round.
My name is Mike Omboro, and I'm from Bunge Mashinani. Now, this is a subject you cannot talk when you are seated. How do we turbocharge the movement? These young people are gallant citizens who said no to oppression, to all the bad things in this country. If you look at this morning, my brother here, Eric, did a very good thing. He called us to stand and observe a moment of silence for those who died in that struggle. But we have the prince here, we have Akina Wanjira, we have Akina Habib, and everyone was in the street. But we only, our conscience only probably remember those that passed. By any chance, Wanjira could be one of those statistics, and so I'm challenging us. Let us all stand up and first give these people a standing ovation, because these are the ones that survived those bullets. They are the ones who said that they are going to fight for it, and these are the remnants. And this is how we first charge them, by showing them that indeed we appreciate them, we value them, and their effort was not in vain. Thank you so much. The issues they were raising in the streets were actually social accountability issues. No, as she has rightly said, they were not asking for anything out of the ordinary. They were asking for good governance. They are talking about tax justice. They were talking about equality. These are things that all generations need so much. And we must look at what is the culture of social accountability in this country. For those seniors, our seniors, Akina Ken, Akina Eric, those that were there in Kenyatta era, because we hear what was happening. For me, it was just an idea that time. But I read and I hear stories that when President Kenyatta died, it was even a challenge. No one even knew how to break this news, because this is a president who has died. But these ones are putting AI images of a dead president in a casket. These ones don't care. And so the issues they are raising and the approach they are taking could be different, but I dare say it is working more than what the other generations did. And they are making so big challenges. Because I remember, like, I am not a Gen Z. I am a millennial. But I felt that it is also my civic responsibility to join the Gen Zs in those streets. My speaker there, I remember I saw a newspaper item where he had been put as one of the most wanted criminals in Kenya. And his photo is put there and put to Fichua DCI alongside my picture, just because we were in those streets fighting and challenging the status quo. So we must know that this is a movement that we cannot allow to die. And Prince Wanjira and the Gen Zs, please know that all the other generations are behind you. Secondly, on Gen Z.
And finally, so.
Yes. Secondly, and there's Gen Z, Jemmezi. From Tunisia. I believe in 2010, when that guy Bouazizi burnt himself in the streets and brought up the uprising, I can bet my last coin probably you are less than 10 years. But here you are talking about the same issues that guy died for. What is this that inspires you? You are only a small child, and I know probably you saw those images. What is this that takes you all the way from US, from Tunisia, to come to Kenya and feel that you really also need to talk about the issues in this country and the issues in Africa?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Much. Thank you. I like that turbo charging. You can hear his energy. That's what I'm looking for.
Thank you very much. My name is Peter Paul. I'm going to take the few minutes. I didn't want to speak today, but I'll add my voice to the great topic that we're discussing today on how we can turbocharge the movement. First, I want to begin by saying that a revolution that is watered by blood cannot die that easily. But it can die if we repeat some of the mistake ourselves, or some of the mistake that the people that came before us did. I want to give you a very simple example. It pains me when some of us, the youth, because I'm one of those people who believe that in 25th of June, we will have made a significant change in this country. But we lost it as the Gen Z at some point because of some of the mistake that we did. But when it comes to us as the Gen Zs, if we want to make change, the change starts within us as well. I call it the transfiguration of Jesus Christ on the mountain. We cannot claim that we want to make change, and us ourselves, we are not the real change. I mean, if you go to these institutions, some of the things that us Gen Zs do not reflect the real change that we want to make. Then how are we going to change? If we talk about stealing, sisi ndo tunaiba shule, we steal exam, we steal all these things. How do we want us to trust you when you become the president that won't steal? You see, it comes down to the simple things. Because me, I don't believe in the personality politics. Because I believe the president should go, but if he goes, then we put you, maybe you'll be worse than even the president himself. So it's not about the personality, it's not about Ruto, it's not about the opposition getting the government. It's about this transfiguration. We start with us, and then when we get to those positions, we cannot be bought. We see some of the Gen Zs that were very vocal when this movement began. Where are they now? We'll say they have been bought, but it's a matter of principles, a matter of values. Because personally, I believe the 2010 Constitution is said to be one of the most progressive constitutions we've had. And this is a discussion we had with many of my peers. And we were saying, if this constitution is the best, and we say it's a constitution without constitutionalism, I mean, it's just a constitution that we went to Europe and those countries and copy-pasted some of those things and placed in our constitution. They do not reflect our real values. They do not reflect some of the things we believe in. That's why we cannot achieve a constitutional implementation of the things we believe in. I mean, if you want change and if you want to change this country, it starts with the transfiguration. I was giving an example with the transfiguration of Jesus Christ on the mountain. You must change personally to make the change. I'll finish with this one because I don't want to take my time. If we say the 2027 election is going to be the determining point of Kenya, or the determining point of a change that we want in Kenya. And we, the people, because I was here when PLO was speaking, he was talking about a certain governor that was arrested, and then the people themselves come and say, "Huyu ni mwizi wetu, this is our thief." And I mean, we the people who want change are the ones who elect thieves. We are the ones who elect the criminals. Somebody has shot somebody, and you say, huyo ndo mtu wetu, hata kama ameua, lakini, I mean, it speaks to the root of our principles and values as a society. The moment we don't change those values, we don't speak to those principles, then we cannot have a change as a country. And we are as the Gen Zs, we are the people who must change first, and then we change the society. We might not realize it, but our children's children will have to get the fruits of our hard work. Thank you for that long speech.
Thank you. Give it to number 3.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Emmanuel Muchoi, and I want to speak on some of the things that we can be able to do in order to improve on the Gen Z movement. Number one, I think what we need to do is to have a clear vision and a clear purpose. I really appreciate the energy of my fellow young people, but I think at some point we lost it because we were doing it from a point of emotions. Actually, when we were in the streets, if you approached a fellow young person and ask him, maybe give me some of the reasons why you're here, why you're demonstrating, some people didn't have a clear purpose. So I think for us young people, we really need to have a clear vision and a clear purpose. We need to Actually, I am thinking, Wanjira, I would propose let us have a Gen Z manifesto where we have outlined everything that we need to change. Let us have a clear manifesto saying this is what we need to do, because we cannot change everything at once, but progressively we can be able to say these are the things that we want to start with, then we can be able to change. Then number two, I think for us to have a better country, we need to really invest in education and creation of awareness. I think one of the biggest problems that we have in our country is ignorance. I mean, some people don't know they are right. Some people, they don't even know that they deserve a good leadership system. So I think we really need to invest in educating the masses, because part of the reason some people will go and vote for the people we are complaining against over and over again is because of the ignorance problem. So I suggest as a movement, we really need to really invest in educating the masses. And some of the ways that I would suggest, I think we really need to have young people coming up with materials. Let's say we write books speaking about the Gen Z movement. We artists make songs and maybe poems that really speak to the hearts of people. So we really need to invest in our education. Personally, I've done a book called I Am Gen Z that highlights the struggles and what we the young people really need to do. Then number three, and I think it's most important, we cannot run an organization that doesn't have funds. As the Gen Z movement, we really need to have financial stability. I don't know how we're going to do it, because if we do not have funds, if you're broke, if you've not maybe paid your rent and you've not eaten, and that corrupt politician approaches you and tells you, I'll sort your rent, maybe I'll give you 1 million, most likely at the end of the day, you might be like, I need to leave. So I think we really need to find a way, and I think our seniors can really help us how our Gen Z movement is going to have finances. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At the back, please. There was another hand at the back there. And then I'll see if I can take one more. I have only 7 more minutes.
Viva. Thank you so much, Ture, and all the comrades in the house. As I said, my name is Odiambo Jiro. I think we have been asked to offer solutions, because to us that change is real, and we don't want to postpone it, and it is possible. So one is that we need to take advantage of the digital tools and marry them with traditional strategies. Digital tools alone cannot deliver this country. I want to give a very brief example. After the Gen Z protest last year in December, many young cadres were being picked. I'm talking about cadres, those who are doing serious work. Mtu mwenye anachora ile kichwa ruta akisema must go. So some of them were picked, and we asked ourselves as young people, what can we do? Those discussions were live, Akina, Wanjira, Ture here, and many. But we reached out to the old cadres, the seniors, and they told us a strategy that worked for us. They told us, one, use your digital tools and your network. But two, let's also infuse the old strategy. And what did they tell us? They chose for us Aga Khan walk, because they said, huko magari kubwa kubwa za polisi huwezi ingia. Zile magari za maji hazina njia ya kuingia. Halafu ya pili, they told us, we will bring a chain, a very heavy chain. Then we will tie ourselves with it so that they kill us together, or we make sure that we occupy. And the third strategy is that now, in the last protest, you are running helter-skelter and they were shooting you. Stay put. So when they come, lie down. Didn't it work, or it worked? So we tied ourselves down with serious people, and the people that were picked in December were all released and given 100 bob to reach home. So bring the two strategies together. Secondly, is another thing that we must also learn is the issue of good thinking. As one of our friends, they have been advising us. You know, even a good footballer, You cannot be playing and thinking at the same time. You need technical team to tell you, when you are around that area, don't hold the ball so fast, so much. You need to release the ball or aim at the goalpost. The Gen Z needs to work with other generations and all experts to bring their expertise. People remember when we were in the streets here, near Nation Center, we saw people in the hotel throwing for us bottles of water. And we saw what Japrado was doing. And we saw Mashirika kama Imlu, bringing pathologists to conduct autopsies. We need all these experts. We need to think together, work together and ask ourselves who is doing what at what point. At sometimes we need to, engage in certain extra-legal mechanisms. Then the lawyers will help us along the process, And then the other thing that I also think it is important, the last one, in the interest of time, is we also need serious political education so that the young people can not only put their faith in one singular profession, that you also only have to trust engineers or lawyers or doctors or teachers to liberate this country. Political ideology, if well grounded in the masses, will help us realize that there's no difference between the people in government and the opposition currently. That there's no difference between Raila Odinga and Rigathi. It will help you understand that you cannot now call Matiang'i a Democrat. So these are the things that we need so that we can move with clarity. So that we can know that the team of Raila Odinga and Ruto and the team of Rigathi are all hunters, and we are the hunted. So be careful. Thank you.
Let me give a last chance here at the front and make it very brief. Don't force me to democratically stop you.
Yes, I want to do two. There is a problem that was there with last year. Before I begin, Madam Atieno, we are proud of your work. That's why we are on the streets. And we acknowledge the fact that we acknowledge you. Thank you so much, sir, for it. Last year, we had an issue with, my good friend here has talked about it, and also my former speaker, where the numbers of the people who are there, very many. But if you can pinpoint the people who you could ask, why are you fighting against this finance bill? Out of 10, I can promise you, out of 20, maybe one. Last year, we had a lot of mobilization work, and it was magnificent. I hosted people from Kisii. I am in Kiambu. People used to come just to stay, because Tuesday ni maandamano, Wednesday tuna rest, Thursday ni maandamano. Right now, I appreciate my seniors here from Bunge Mashinani. We saw that this mobilization is good, but the organization is very poor. You cannot have people who are mobilized, but poorly organized. That is the first thing that we are supposed to be changing. If you have not begun this organization process, then you are failing us as a nation. I can clearly tell you, in Kiambu County today, tell us to organize the youth today, to fight against something, it will happen. We have seen it with our current governor. Alijaribu kuleta wamama walia ati ni political, and we went to the EACC office just to prove that it is not political. Secondly, Wanjira has talked about leadership. From where I come from, we have this saying, I am not the Messiah. If today I was shot, the movement will still go on. Do you know why? Because we are not here riding against one person or one person's idea. We are riding against a whole generational change that we want. And do you know who is the leader of that generational change? Our Kenyan constitution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let me take this chance to just give my panelists a minute each. I mean, there was only one question directed to my colleague here, but I would like to give everyone a minute each to just give their final reflections. This has been very encouraging.
Thank you for all your input. I especially loved Ojiro's input on merging tactics and entrenching political education. Because even as the Constitution is leading us, we need to have political clarity. We need to have deep ideological clarity. That will be the stark difference with our generation and how we conduct politics and every other generation that is coming after us, which is also tied to the point on history. If we do not know where we are coming from, there's absolutely no way we are able to contextualize the present. There's absolutely no way we are able to know how and where we are going forward. So we need to have a deep historical understanding of the neo-colonial country that is Kenya today. The other thing is, you said that organization was poor, but mobilization was perfect. Why do you think organization was poor?
Can I answer?
Yes.
Thank you. I believe the organization was very poor, considering the people who we chose to be the forefront. Currently, if we can look at the people who are at the forefront of last year's Mandamano, are Akina Kasmuel, who after a few shillings, allegedly, I don't want to talk like I'm speaking facts, the likes of Akina Osama Otero in X, the likes of Akina, you know, all those people who are there, who are the front line, they were the people who were snatched away. They were the people who, Osama is the one who hosted the president. Yes, we cannot forget that.
Yeah, but my question is, why do you think organization was poor?
Currently, I can say...
Someone would like to help you over there.
Oh, thank you. My colleagues, yes.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Isaac Wanene. I work with Buga Mashinani School of Governance. And to answer you, it's simple. We never had leaders or people who we could look onto.
We didn't have centralized, organized leadership because we were leaderless. So even if we would organize 1 million people, there was no way to say, tunaenda right, ama tunaenda left, ama tunakaa, ama tunafanya. Everybody was offering leadership from the point where they're at. And that became a challenge, which is what I am identifying right now. That for us to have a strong movement, we need to have some kind of a steering committee-ish that could be able to give direction in instances like that. Because if we had centralized, organized leadership, iyo siku tungechukua state. Iyo siku tungechukua state. I promise you, because we were good, we were a good number. We were enough. We were many. Tulikuwa tumesha overwhelm state. Wamehepa. Sindio, si walihepa ndio tukaenda parliament. The leadership would have said, now we march to State House. There would have been no pingamizi. There would have been no if of it. Tunaenda because tumejam na wasi wametudunoma long time. Na hiyo leadership ingekuwa able kuchukua presa na iseme from now on, William Samoei Ruto is no longer the president of this country. This steering committee has taken over. For the next 3 months, we are preparing to go into what? An election. Sindio? But because we didn't have a proper leadership, tukakuwa na hiyo challenge. And ndio maana na propose hapa kusema, sasa tuwezi shimo, alafu na tuingie shimo. Hiyo sasa ni, inasemango aje, we once bitten, twice shy. Sindio? So for the purposes of having a strong, formidable movement, Manu hapa amesema, we need to figure out how to run an organization with funds. How are we going to even fundraise funds without a centralized leadership? How are we going to do political education sessions without some form of... Yani, for sure, if we have to have a serious organization, we have to have some form of leadership. And this is not to create a personality cult. We are already clear that we don't want to have another Raila or another Rigathi or another Madhakarua or another Kalonzo. We don't want to have personality cults kind of leadership. So what do we want to have? This is also birthing the new culture of politics in our country, that we are having a leadership that ikona Unajua where my center I come from, tuko na collective leadership. That we here are co-leaders. We are co-coordinators of a center. That your opinion carries as much weight as mine. That sisi wote ni viongozi, si ndio? And we are also celebrating collective intellect, because you might have a bright idea, I could bring my bright idea, and together our ideas become flammable. That is what we are talking about. Because also, we need to see how we really create a new culture ya kufanya siasa Kenya. Because tuko clear, hiyo vile tulikuwa tunafanya siasa previously is not serving us. For me, I actually feel like we are stuck in a never-ending loop after every 5 years. We are stuck in a never-ending loop after every 5 years. Tunaekeleanga bet kwanza kila miaka 5. Tunaona acha tuone kama itaungua ama itaiva ama itaivana, si ndio? Sasa hadi lini na tunazeeka? The next 3, 4, 5 years we will not be as young as we are right now, si ndio? Time is moving. So we need to have better services and constitutional rights now. So how do we do that if we are not having conversations amongst ourselves, dialogues, assemblies, grounding ideologically? Because we have to be serious and mean this. It's also our way of honoring Kinarex, that they did not die. Evil vile politicians wanasema, people die all the time. Those were our brothers and sisters. That could have been you, that could have been me. I wouldn't want Kenya to just move on after I was shot outside Parliament kutoka maandamano. Yeah.
So one of the questions that I got is, what inspired you to be all over the place? Growing up, my father worked in the military, so I got to see a lot of the security structure. And, you know, we moved around a lot. Every 3 years, we were in a new county and state in Tunisia. And then at the age of 17, I wanted to leave the country and see what democracy is really about. So I left, and I went to Italy and the States, and eventually Kenya. And I think having this curiosity of like living, living by the borders always, learn new things. And since growing up, I mean, you said I was 10 during the revolution, but I remember it so vividly for some reason. I remember my French professor got her camera confiscated when she was taking photos, and my dad was the one that got her back and that was like such a moment for me, because like he gave her back the camera. And then and then growing up too, like our house was flooded always with news. Like Al Jazeera, I remember like during Eid, and like I remember that Saddam Hussein was killed. I was 6 or 7 then. I don't even know what that means. So eventually I picked a lot of interest for geopolitics, and I guess my nature of wanting to fix things and help people put me in this field. And honestly, I'm honored because every day I learn more. And one of the things that I learned in my journey and keep on inspiring me is that I used to be fueled by a lot of passion. And passion is like fire. It burns everything around it. It's not really sustainable change. And coming through my journey of learning and talking to people from all over, I started having more compassion. And I started realizing that change can be really slow and tiring and exhausting. And you might fall into the depth of despair at some point, because you look at it and you're like, what do we do? As I said, a cycle. Every 5 years, we're doing the same thing. However, it is people like you, it is going around, it is getting to know what each country is doing, trying to figure out how we can move forward. And then also growing up, I'm a Pan-Africanist. I read a lot of radical literature that made me the person that I am today. And yeah, I'm very happy and excited, and I'm very grateful for the privilege of learning every day. Thank you.
Can we clap for that personal story? Let's listen to Bosire.
Yes, first, I like what Wanjira is saying about organization and the admission that there was mobilization, proper mobilization, very poor organization. True, that happened. 2, do not, as a way forward, begin to allow yesterday's autocrats to be today's democrats. You can see they are beginning to wear gowns of democracy. How do you call them out? Document their yesterday's sins and tell them, we know you, and you are not part of the change that we desire. Call them out now. I've not heard that voice from Wanjira. They already paraded themselves in a boardroom. Call them out tomorrow, like yesterday. We do not need you as Democrats. You are Kenyans, you have a right to be Kenyans, but do not be our messiahs for tomorrow. 2, take these conversations to what we're calling decentralization. You've done it in Nairobi, take it to the counties. Begin to call out those mini presidents in the counties who are abusing people at the grassroots. Begin, like in Kiambu, make sure that you take the thing to the end and document it and go around. By the time you are done the 47 or even 15 of them, you will have created what we call a momentum. That momentum begins from the grassroots. I want to confess that at some point I was a nihilist. Who knows what a nihilist is? People believe in raising everything and not providing solutions. But now I believe that you change, reform, create solutions. Because the question today that we talk about, after I've done this, so what? As the journalists will say today, we don't just tell the stories with all the parameters that complete story. They say, so what? I have kicked this ball out. What do I need to do? So I wish you well, change tactic, and carry every one of us along. Stop the culture that I experienced at some level called the cancel culture. Do not cancel other people, other generations out. It is our country, and we need to be part of it all. If you check the preamble of that constitution, which we have not fully implemented, let's work to make sure that that constitution is fully implemented before you come to the next thing. Like I'm thinking of the 2/3 gender thing, really needs to be there by like yesterday. So pick out those points that have not been done and make sure that this constitution, which is our leaders you mentioned, becomes a true leader with integrity and with feet that stands on his feet very firmly, where around we can anchor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, comrades and friends. I really hear you and I hear some of these recommendations, and I just want to reiterate those who are saying, let us self-critique. I think it's important for us to self-critique at all times. It is always good to critique. Let us also avoid the cult of the self. The cult of the self. This celebrity activism won't take us anywhere. You can't carry this revolution on your shoulders as an individual. I hear also those who are saying you can't give what you don't have. So those who don't read, please read. If you've not read radical literature, find radical literature. Read it. Have something in your head, even as you go into this with your heart. Not all citizens mean well. So let's not over-romanticize citizens. I think political education is being called upon. There are citizens who let us down time without number because of the political mobilization around ethnicity and the wasted vote syndrome, people who feel they can't vote for a good guy because he's not in the right party. I think we also must move from emotion, and calls for a manifesto are useful calls because it helps you to know what the four corners of your movement is about. We are also being asked to do a division of labor. Not everybody can be in the tank battalion. Not everybody can be at nation center when people are needed at nation center. And so let's also do in places where we are best. If you are best at just supplying, then just bring stones. and the others will throw it. If you are good at throwing stones, then just wait with your sling and someone will supply the stones. I think division of labor is critical. It's very, very important. If we are in this, I think we have to make choices. Are we in this out of necessity, or we are in this as career? Those who are in this as career, the Makaures have gone to their careers. Those who are in this out of necessity because they have no jobs, because they have a good education and they can't make ends meet, are still here. And so let's separate those who are in it out of necessity and those who are in it out of career. I know in this age we celebrate shallowness as an ideal. I think it's part of what bogged us down, where people think shouting is a form of discussion. Let's find people who can go into a discussion and allow them to strengthen discussion. The oligarchs are united, let me tell you, and they will neutralize any alternative political thought any day. So we need not be asked to unite. We must just unite. There's no other choice. I don't think there's a shortcut to that. And thanks, if your dad is a military man, is he still alive? That could be your base for training. You could visit, you know, and do what is called benchmarking or exchange visits with the old man. He will teach you a few things about marching and doing important things. And I like what she's sharing, from passion to compassion, until we realize that change takes a very long time. I think our time horizon as Gen Zs when we went to the street was a bit unreasonable. And we started with must go, and then at some point you started talking of kufinish, kumalo. And you know, every time I listened to that, and I was like, you can't finish the job that fast. The day you went into parliament was the moment for going to State House. And if you didn't go to State House on that day, those things you started doing after the following weeks that you're now trying to go to State House, from a tactics point of view, was a bit thoughtless. You would have just gone back to the drawing board and said, our victory was parliament, and let's use that victory to go to other things. But those are things we can work on. Let me also share a piece of advice from the discussion that I can share. I think our movement will not move if there's little fun in it. People want to come into things and have fun. So let's make this movement fun. The day you are dancing in town, there were folks who came there not because of anything, they just came to dance. And sometimes you need those dancers around, even if they don't know why they're there. So I think the movement must decide how to make this fun so that people don't run away, they don't think they're going to be killed. Tell them no one is going to kill you. It's just music. Number two, if we emphasize too much on organization, I think we should emphasize more on mission rather than organization. Organizations are very difficult to manage, and they take you off your mission completely sometimes, because as the numbers grow, as the organization professionalizes, as it becomes big, and it starts wanting to do science, you end up now doing organizational science instead of must go. And so I think we need to balance those two. Three, I think we are doing too many meetings and too little action. And in meetings, there's a lot of wrangling. There's a lot of trying to reach consensus. And there's too much deciding, but very little creating. That guy who was drawing those heads was just doing it in his house alone. Creating sometimes doesn't need very big groups, and some big groups can make it very difficult. Now, let's also not be obsessed with looking for too many people. Large groups are very difficult to manage than small groups, and sometimes small groups can conspire and do something really big in the city. Because when you attract too many people, often you'll attract a lot of wrong people. That is the impulse you get. You'll have very angry people, very combative people, very controlling people, very lonely people, very long-winded people, and people who are just out to lunch. And then the movement suffers. And you've seen the Makaures, the guys who had come for lunch. Then I think this one is the last thing I'm going to say. We need to have more contact with each other. The traditional sources of community are really around contact with each other. Regular face-to-face. I know the digital prison is a difficult one to get out of, but until we have a lot of contact with each other, it will be very difficult to show solidarity. I mean, a lot of you know each other as comrade power here in the streets, but if anyone is hurt, you don't know where to find them. You start asking, ule Wanjira kwani anaishingi wapi? Unajua kule Wanjira naishi? Because we've never cared to really have true comradeship that we can look for each other. I'm sharing this as an elder in a different generation. Even when the Gen Zs felt that I let them down, I have never been in politics. I've never been in the state space. I have lived all my life up to my 50s. I've never been employed. It's not that I don't have a clean brain. You can listen to the way I'm speaking. Don't I sound like I can be useful to my country? My country has never had use for me. So I've been in the trenches. So even as you were doing your thing, I was one of your best fans. Because I told my children who are Gen Zs, go to the demonstrations. We talk after the demos. We used to talk after the demos. Them, they go, me, I wait. Yeah, so I just want us to focus and do what we have to do, so that we get this country off its problems. And one of our biggest existential threats right now is this economy and the way we are borrowing. And I think that is the next panel. I want to thank you guys for your time and to say asanteni sana, my panel. Let's clap for each other.